Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. #Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. And of course, now and always, keep hustling. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Lisa Lounsbury. Lisa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Aaron. It is an honor to be here with you.
The honor's all mine. You know that. We're going to jump right in. For those listening or watching, Lisa is sitting in an office. We would like you to, we never asked this, but for the sake of this podcast, please tell us where that office is located.
I am in your favorite city in the United States, probably your favorite city in the world. I'm outside of Syracuse, New York.
Syracuse,
Upstate
New York. That's right.
The
Okay,
real New York. There
so
is New York outside of New York City, Aaron.
I'm not sure we're going to call it the real New York. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. But for those who are listening who don't know, Carrie Walsh was a previous guest on the podcast, and she said something about Pittsburgh and whatever we're not going to talk about. Everybody knows that
there.
I love New York. I love New York City. I love the fact that I was born in the core of the Big Apple. I love that my birth certificate says New York, New York, and all 5 of my children. My wife crossed the bridge from Queens when we lived in Queens to have 5 children in the borough of Manhattan so that our kids' birth certificates could say New York, New York. That being said, my mother was raised, not born. My mother was born in Trani, Italy, in a displaced persons camp after the Holocaust. But my mother was raised in Syracuse, and I've told this to Lisa before. I believe that all roads lead to Syracuse. It's the craziest thing, but where things come in my life, there is so much that leads back to Syracuse. It's a great place. If you're listening to this, stop in on your way from Niagara Falls to New York City, Wegmans. Do it. Go see Lisa.
Yes.
So that's what I got to say. That's really basically all there is to say about Syracuse is Wegmans and seeing Lisa.
Oh, that's so not true, but that's okay. Well, when you drive through again, we'll show you some more. Yeah.
What I will say that people may or may not be disappointed with in Syracuse, New York, is that I discovered later in my life, as my mother grew up there, that she felt that New York City was made up of a bunch of wimps because in New York City, we have something called snow days. So it snows and then you don't go to school because they have to plow the roads. But in Syracuse, it snows and you are out there.
Right. Although this is a pretty mild winter. I mean, when I moved to Syracuse in '99, so my husband is from this area. I'm a native of Pennsylvania. So we can talk about Pennsylvania because I know you love Pennsylvania too. But when I moved here, I think the only place that was snowier than Erie, Pennsylvania, where I grew up, was Syracuse, New York. Like you heard Syracuse and Erie all the time on the news. Buffalo once in a while, but we used to get 140, 150 inches of snow. And now if we get 60 or 70, we're lucky. So I would agree with your mom. People in Syracuse, we are hardy. We are, for the most part, outdoor, activity enthusiasts, skiing, snowboarding, walking, whatever. There's a lot to do outside that's healthy and has very clean air. You do not have clean air.
I literally remember growing up and like my grandparents lived in Syracuse. My grandmother passed away when I was 7, and my grandfather lived another 13 years, and he lived in Syracuse by himself for a large portion of that. At the end of his life, he ended up living near my parents. And I remember in the winter, his neighbors would literally go check on him because his house was like buried in snow. And we were like, this is not a way to live. This is not a way to live. Just to live near Wegmans. We have that in New York City now. You got nothing. You got nothing.
Dinosaur Barbecue left Manhattan. So
whatever helps you sleep at night.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump right in. We digress, yes. Maybe not. But whatever. I'm glad we got that out of the way because it means a lot, and I know my family listens, and we have a tremendous amount of appreciation and gratitude to the city of Syracuse and surrounding areas. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So Lisa, I know you are the CEO of a huge company, a very important company, a very important organization to me personally and professionally, and to all the insurance agents in New York and Connecticut. But tell us, what do we need to know about the upbringing of Lisa?
Well,
maiden name.
Kostrubanic.
I wrote that down, but it just didn't work.
I know, it's Slavic.
That led you to be the CEO of the Big I New York today.
Wow. Well, I always say I really didn't have a choice about the insurance industry. My dad was an independent agent in Erie, Pennsylvania, where I grew up. So I'm an only child, so that has a lot to do with me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We lived outside of Erie. My dad was an agent, so I literally grew up, with my parents in the business. My dad was a producer for a large agency. When I was in high school, I was probably about 13. He left and started his own independent agency. And so I've always like, in fact, my dad, he's 83, and we were just talking over the holidays. I said, one of the memories I have that's so vivid in my mind is when he started his agency. He rented this little office space in this kind of, not the nicest building. And we, before he like even had an employee, we went in, and for whatever reason, it was really important that he have like a little raised, elevated platform that we built his little office up on. And so I vividly remember being in there with my mom and dad on a weekend, and like, framing it out, putting the sheetrock up, like buying furniture. So I had a really cool opportunity. I didn't realize it at the time, to see a business literally get built. I mean, he didn't have a huge agency, but he had, everything my parents have achieved, they built from scratch. My mom always tells this story that I think my dad had like $97 in the bank when they met, and he had a vending machine route. So for their honeymoon, they went from Erie, Pennsylvania to Geneva, Ohio, as far as his vending route would take them. And that's where they stopped, and they collected quarters along the way. So I grew up with a really modest upbringing, and, my parents just always worked super hard. And so I've always had a really incredible work ethic that's super important to me. It's important for my kids. I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I know I can outwork anybody. So that's why I love your, keep hustling thing, because I can hustle like the best of them. So I don't know. That's a little
I
bit
think you're the
about my
smartest
upbringing.
person in the room. In this room, you're
Well, I
definitely
don't
the
think so.
smartest person. You're in a
Well,
room by
I'm by
yourself.
myself in my
I know
room.
exactly.
So
So me
hopefully
too.
I am.
Me too. So
Yeah.
we're good. But
Yeah.
did you then work in the agency or
No, so I grew up, my dad had the agency. I was really into horses, still am into horses. So I
you can
grew
be into
up
horses when you live in rural
when you live
nowhere?
upstate. Yeah. So when I was in high school, I rode horses competitively. In fact, I got into it because a new boarding stable got, opened up about a mile from where I lived. And my dad came home, one afternoon early, and, said to my mom, I'm going to go write that, and I'm going to go write the stable. I'm going to write the insurance on the stable. So I'm taking Lisa, and I'm going to sign her up for, horseback riding lessons. And my mom and I are big animal lovers. Like, we have dogs, and we, whatever. That's a whole different story, funny stories. But so he took me to this barn to sign me up for horseback riding lessons, so we could like get leverage in to write their insurance. And my mom said when we were leaving, she said, Al, she said, this is going to be the most, like, the most expensive insurance policy you ever write. And she was correct. So I've been riding horses my whole life. So I was a competitive hunter jumper, and we showed horses in like Cleveland and Pittsburgh and Buffalo and Syracuse and all over. And I did that all through high school. When I went to college, I went to college in Ohio. I didn't want to keep riding, but they kind of caught wind that I had had some success. And so I rode at our college equestrian team as well, and swore I would not get into insurance when I graduated. And I studied finance. I had three job offers when I graduated. One was from a great insurance company, Great American Insurance, and that's who I went to work for right out of college. So it was a great experience.
There's so much to unpack there. First of all,
Yeah.
I don't know. You did not know this, I think, before we started, but we insured the don't kill me for botching the name, please. The Budweiser Clydesdales.
Clydesdales.
We
Yeah.
insured those for Great
Wow. I
American.
just
Yeah,
watched them on the Rose Bowl,
yeah.
the
So
parade.
that
Yeah.
was a great legendary. My father did not go to the owner and say he will take on horseback riding in order to, I think, called equestrian,
Smart.
but
Yeah.
because my father and a horse probably would not have been a great
Yeah.
match. But I think that's so. First of all, I love the fact that your father leveraged that. Did he get the account?
He did. But this is a really funny story. So my best friend, and she's still my best friend, lived about a mile the opposite side of the stable, and her dad was an independent insurance agent. So Deke had the
Yeah.
same idea. So literally the first day I show up for my horseback riding lesson, I was at 3 o'clock, and then at 3:30, who shows up at my best friend Amy Lynn. And so this account would go back and forth between my dad and my best friend's dad for years and years and years, which was really funny.
It's
Yeah,
that's I think that insurance agents get a bad insurance salesmen, for lack of a better term, get a bad rap because it's like, what are you going to try to sell me today? You guys are like used car salesmen. Like that's the not that there's anything wrong with used cars, but you know what I'm saying. There's that kind of uh, view that people have,
yeah,
and the most what I love is that we all have the same thoughts. I am not. I am totally. It actually drives my wife a little crazy that we have a rule in our agency, and I mentioned this before, that we don't sell our friends,
yeah,
but they all end up coming around. They all end up coming around. And early on, she's like, "These people are so close to you. You're such good friends with them. They call you and they ask you for advice. How come you're not their agent?" And I'm like, "They'll come around. They'll come around. You got to
yeah,
play the long game." And meanwhile, I'm like this. I'm like this. That was great. We just motion sensed the light back on. That's
yeah. Sorry,
awesome. That's great. We're not going to edit that
my
out. I love
studio
that.
audience isn't
The
moving
studio
much,
audience
so yeah,
exactly is
yeah,
the other smart people in the room,
yeah,
but they and it's just, but yet when we walk into a place, we immediately risk analyze what's going on over here.
oh,
We immediately look
absolutely,
for smoke detectors. We look at exits. We do all that kind of
yep,
stuff. We look and see where there's too much clutter.
yeah,
So I love that, and I think that there's something to the hustle in your upbringing that you might not have been drawn to the agency side, but there's something about giving back to the industry that gave you so much.
yes. I mean, it's so true. Like I even though I work for a trade association, we'll talk about that because that's like it's so foreign to so many people. I've always had such an entrepreneurial spirit. So, again, going back to, yes, I rode horses. So one's going to assume my parents were very wealthy, which they weren't. I mean, my dad became very successful, but at the time when we started, so I mean, I was the kid at the barn at 4 a.m., like at the horse shows, getting the rich kids' horses ready for them to show up at 9 o'clock, to go out and ride.
Hustle.
So I'd hustle, like, and I loved it. I was scrappy, like, and I bring that forward to my job now, but like I was scrappy, like however I could make money doing things around the barn. I had multiple jobs, like I did it and I loved it because I understood what it took, and I understood what a privilege it was for me to be able to do this. And I really appreciated, the sacrifices my parents made, my family made, and I liked contributing to it. So I think that helped me a lot, like in college, and it helped me a lot secure the job that I did after college. I mean, I had an incredible, it was a short career, but I had an incredible career at Great American Insurance. I mean, I was based in Cincinnati, Ohio. They had this great training program. They hired 9 people right out of school, 3 for Cincinnati, 3 for Syracuse, 3 for Raleigh. I met my husband in the first 2 weeks of training. He came back to Syracuse and I stayed in Cincinnati, but we got to do so much. And so it was cool because I saw, like, I didn't really understand insurance, although I did get my insurance license when I was a junior in college, like summer job at my dad's, like I'd help
Was
out
it
and do
now? Let me
things.
ask you a question. Was that
Yeah.
not the most nerve-wracking moment of your life?
Yeah, but I had this really sweet producer that worked for my dad. So I lived in Pennsylvania at the time. So I went to, like, now I understand, I was at the Big I office, when I was, I don't know, 19 years old taking the class, but I came back and Dick would, like, help me study and do all these things. So I really had the benefit of there not being a lot of pressure because it's not like I
I
needed
just
a job, but it was kind of
When
cool.
I took that test, I had already been working in the agency for a little while, and I wasn't a great student, and like, but the test also, you might not feel that you're the smartest person in the room. I may not feel that I'm the smartest person, not the smartest person in the room, but that's part of being in the insurance industry. It's not like real rocket science.
Not a, yeah.
And I remember sitting there and getting ready to hit the submit button, and then it pops up like, "Are you?" I'm right. Yes, I took mine on a computer. I don't know how you took your
Yes.
test. Not judgment, but like whatever. So,
Yeah, we didn't have a pen
but
or
so I
anything.
remember like it said, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, "How is this going to go if I failed with my like not because they would think I was a failure, but it's like you're the insurance guy. Like I like to say that my siblings could probably pass a good bit of the insurance exam because like we literally grew up with our parents. All they all they talk
You heard
about
it.
was
Yeah.
insurance. So
Yeah. And you
so
saw
yeah,
him in
that's
action, right? Like
exactly.
I saw my dad in action. Like, there's an issue or someone's got a fire or, I mean, you name it. Who is the first person that is called? It's usually the insurance agent, right? I mean, first responders. I think insurance agents are right there a lot of times.
Yeah, not all heroes wear capes. We appreciate that. We're gonna clip that and we're gonna do some marketing around that. So, what made you not pivot to the agency side?
I'm not a technician. So, we worked for Great American, and we had a really incredible track there. But to be on that track, we were moving every 12 to 18 months. So I was commercial lines when the commercial lines division sold to Ohio Casualty Group. I mean, I'm dating myself back now. This is the late 90s. My husband and I were one of a handful of people that Great American said, no, we're not, like, you're not part of the sale with the other 600 people. We're keeping you, and we're going to move you guys over to specialty. And, here's some options for you to think about. So we did that. Now, my husband's family had an insurance agency in upstate New York.
God,
His
it's so
uncle.
bad. This is so
I
bad.
know, I
This
know.
is
Like I
so
can't.
bad.
But
This
but
is
listen,
so bad.
so when we were thinking about, like, do we want to keep moving all the time with the carrier? Like, we knew we would have a great career and we had some incredible mentors, or like, do we want to do our own thing? Again, that entrepreneurial spirit. And my husband's super smart, and he's, like a great technician. We weighed both options, and the easier route would have been to move to Pennsylvania, take my family business over and do that. But I really did not have an interest in working in the agency. My husband did. So we kind of went, at the time, it was the harder route. It had always passed uncle, nephew, uncle, nephew. We moved to upstate New York. I swore I wanted to get out of the industry. My husband worked for his family business. We took a big pay cut. He was literally like dialing for dollars to write some of his accounts, and he did a great job. And so, what had happened though, while we were in Cincinnati, I met my predecessor at the Big Eye, Dick Poppy, who is just a, if you don't know him, he's just one of the best people you'll ever meet. Full of integrity, and was a was the best mentor I've ever had. And I had met him. They were doing some company visits, carrier advocacy meetings, and he had caught wind that we were moving back to the Syracuse area, and so he reached out to me and said, we don't really, we're small, we're a nonprofit. I had no idea what the Big Eye was. I really did not understand it. And he
He's
kind
like,
of
there's
carved
something
out a
else
position.
around Syracuse that's not Wegmans, and
Yes, it's
therefore
not
there's this thing.
Wegmans.
Did you know this thing called the Big Eye in New York? It's like insurance, but not insurance agency and all that. I
Yeah.
got to ask, what was it like when your father met your father-in-law?
When my
Two insurance
father,
agents. Two insurance
oh, well,
agents.
no, it wasn't my father in law. It was my husband's uncle. So it
Oh,
always gone
okay.
uncle,
Gosh.
nephew, uncle,
Oh God,
nephew.
that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah. So they were
yeah.
two peas in a pod, as you can imagine,
Yeah, we don't have insurance agency in law, children sibling in law. We don't have any of those. We just me.
Yeah.
Um, my siblings are not in the business.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's, I mean, but I think there's something to the fact that a lot of times people, when their career takes them in different paths, and when their career evolves, they go back to the things that A, are comfortable, and B, that they know can lead to their level of success. And I'm not talking about the people who run and say that they're going to create another startup and take that leap,
Yeah.
but it's like there's something about the fact, I think, that you knew the insurance industry.
Yeah.
You had worked in the insurance industry. Maybe you knew that you didn't want to be in an insurance agency, but
Right.
it was like, I know enough about this industry. It's gave me a great life. It gave my husband that side of the family a great life. And so I want to find a way not just to give back to the industry, but to be a part of that industry. And I think that it's just so interesting as I'm talking to people through this podcast and trying to, get past the why to the how and how people got to these things and got to where they are.
Yeah.
It's super interesting how a lot of times people end up just like it might be a variation of the industry, but they kind of
Mm-hmm.
end up in the industries that they knew growing up, unless
Yeah.
they're like in marijuana dispensaries or things like that.
Well, that's true. We aren't into that. Although we do have farmland, but we don't have, we're not going that. But I did try hard to get out. Like I really,
You
it's
just can't.
funny, but
Sucks you back in.
it
It's like
does. It really
Syracuse.
does.
Once you're there, it's a
Well,
black hole. It's just gonna suck you back in forever.
it does because I think the reason I love my job right now, like I love my job more than anybody in the whole wide world probably loves their job. Like I love this industry. It's an incredible industry. And when you understand, really how it does, like it helps people do so
Everything.
many things,
The
everything.
entire financial and every banks. I mean, the
Yeah.
whole infrastructure depends on us. We are super
Yeah.
important. Like we big.
Super
Like
important.
we are big I. Big I. We are
Yeah.
important.
And good people. Like there's just really solid, good people. I mean, just like you, like I've met so many incredible friends in this industry. So coming to work for the Big I, it was scary as hell because again, I did not understand at all what they did. I was very nervous. It was a big leap at that my age into a role I didn't think I was prepared for. But I think when you're really passionate about like your product or what it is that you do, you figure it out. And I am really passionate about, the industry and talking to everybody about how great it is and how wonderful you are. Like our agents, the agents, like you said earlier, kind of the used car salesman, like it's terrible. And I don't think used car salesmen are bad people,
No,
right?
100%.
You know,
100%.
they're good. So I feel bad that we make that comparison, but like agents are just, they do so much good for their communities, and not even just professionally but just like personal. Like you've shared some really neat stories with me about what you've done that are way above and beyond, like
My
you
parents. I
know
do very little. My parents have paved the way. But yes.
yeah. So anyway, I
So
don't
I
know, that's how I'm here, I guess.
so my next question is,
Yes.
what take us to the most pivotal moment in your career? I think I know what it is based on what you said, but what would you say?
Well, there's probably two, I'll be honest. The first is making the decision to join the Big I mean, I did not understand. I could not. I came from a company that had, thousands of employees and structure, and, like I had a defined career path. And when I came here, I mean, when you think about the Big I, in general, it doesn't matter what state you're in, like we're in so many different businesses. And I think this is part of what attracted me because I've got that entrepreneurial spirit. We're in the education business, right? We are in the advocacy business. We are in the marketing and branding business. We are in the compliance business. And then, oh, by the way, we have an insurance agency too. So we are running that insurance agency. So it was just really scary. And I think when you're young, you don't understand that you can rise to the occasion. Like, I think when you're younger, and maybe I'm just figuring this out now, like, as long as you can learn and you can figure things out, you can accomplish things. I think so often we think we have to have the specific education or specific training to be successful in a role. And, at that point, I mean, I wasn't even 30 when I came to work here and came in as an assistant vice president, which was a big deal, but we're a little organization. It was just really scary. But again, my mentor, Dick Poppy, was like amazing. He saw potential in me that I did not know I had. And so that was great. And then the other big pivotal moment was when he retired, because he retired, it's been 6 or 7 years now. And, from when I started to that point, I've had two children. And I was very fortunate that he, enabled me to work on a part-time schedule, because as much as I love my job, I really love being a mom and being there for my kids too. And I needed to step back and do some things to support my kids a little bit more with their education. And I had the ability to do that. So when he was getting ready to retire, he's like, okay, like this opportunity's here. I can't guarantee it, but I will advocate for you. I'm like, I don't think I want it. Like, I don't want it. In fact, I said no. And then it took me about 9 months, once everyone started the process of looking, to be like, you know what, I can do it. And again, I think it was that confidence. I didn't necessarily have the confidence, and I was trying to manage, work life schedule, work balance schedule, and it's hard. It's really
Did
hard as a
you
working mom.
100%. I don't know what that's like, but I hear you.
Yeah.
What was it like when your mentor tells you that they want to be their successor? Like for me, I it was I came into a family business. My father from the first day used to joke he would call me his son and heir, and I would call him the chairman, and people thought we had this like big business, and meanwhile, it was like six of us in an office in New York City, but like whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but what was it like when he came to you and said, like, I feel like that's got to be nerve wracking, but also a moment of tremendous pride. Like, hey, you know, my mentor
Yeah.
is literally ready to pass the baton to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was so accomplished. And again, like, I think the things that I've learned so much from him, and the fact that he saw that in me, I mean, it was incredibly, I don't even, humbling is not the right word. I don't even know how to really describe it, but I mean, he always saw that. And so what I've learned from it is I try to do that with my staff as I think about my perpetuation. There's some people here that I try to make sure I'm instilling in them, that they have these opportunities, and I've got the confidence that they can learn and move forward. But it's nerve wracking, it's exciting, it's scary, it's everything. But at the end of the day, it feels good when someone believes in you. So I try to make sure I believe in people and let them know that I believe in them, because I think a lot of times we think things about people, but we don't necessarily vocalize it or show them like we have the best of intentions. So I try to just act on them a little bit more.
I often think that if the average person would believe in themselves as much as other people do,
Yeah.
some people would call them crazy, but there would be a lot of success. Not irrational belief, but it's like if those around you are saying it's going to work out, that doesn't mean everything is going to be perfect. But it's like you can do the job. That means you can do the job. It doesn't mean there won't be hiccups along the road or any
Oh,
challenges
right.
or anything like that. But it just means if you it just it's interesting to me that so many young people look to mentors, and I think that mentors is something that we need, and mentorship is something that's lacking in this generation. We really need to dig deeper into that. But they'll listen to their parents, spouses, and mentors about everything except for when they tell them they can do it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
eh, I assume had he told you, hey, maybe approach this situation this way, you would have taken his advice because he was your mentor
Yeah.
and he
Oh,
had
and
done it for
I did
20
get
years.
that a
You
lot.
know what I'm
Yeah. Don't
saying?
get me
But then
wrong.
it's like,
Yeah.
and I want you to be my successor. What? No, I can't do that job. What do you
Right.
mean everything else? So I
Yeah.
think that it's unique to spouses and mentees where it's like people think that that those on the other side irrationally believe in them, but it's really just from a place of actual understanding.
Yeah. And plus, the other thing too with the job is, I mean, when you're in this role, I mean, he had a political background. He was very passionate about the political process and the legislative process, and I really love business. Like it is, and we're in New York State, right? So this is one of the hardest states in the country to um, be an insurance agent or an insurance company in. I mean, the regulatory environment, the legislative environment. I mean, this is a tough, 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 tough state. And it is not my passion. Like, politics are not my passion. So I knew if I were going to do the job, I needed to bring someone that had that passion. And thank God I was able to find a wonderful person to do that. And, I've learned a lot, and um, I mean, it's something I'll always keep learning in, but my passion is definitely not in the political side of things. But I recognize, especially in New York, it is so important what we do for our members. It's so important. So
Well, you had me fooled because as a member, I can't believe it took us so long to be members, but we benefit greatly from your political prowess and the accomplishments that you've had in
thanks for you
politically
guys.
and logistically. So yeah, I mean it's selfless. So it's we really appreciate it. So thank you for that.
Sure.
So you said there were two moments that you thought. Oh, you said when he retired and when he. Were you nervous
Yeah.
when he
And
said he was going to retire?
pardon me.
Were you nervous when he said? Did you like know he was going to retire?
Oh yeah. I mean, he was so transparent with me. Yes, I knew for probably 10 years when he wanted to retire. Another moment that was really interesting to me was when I did take the job, and I won't be too specific about the timing, but I had like my first review. So the other thing I would say about my mentor and about Dick is he never treated me like a girl. Like, I was just a person, and it didn't matter what my gender was or whatever. Like, I just, same standards, no
When
special
did you start at the
treatment.
Big Eye? When was this? And around what year?
About 98, 99.
Okay.
Yeah, 99. Um, I was treated like a female for the first time during one of my reviews, and not in a way that anybody like was. I don't think trying to be demeaning or whatever, but there was a comment that someone had one of the areas I was being evaluated on, and again I won't be too specific. Uh, Really had nothing to do with my appearance, and the my evaluation had to do with, and it was positive, with my appearance. And again, I don't think they meant anything by it at all, but I remember calling Dick afterwards saying, God, thank you for never treating me like a female. Like, you just, like, you were kind, and like, but you just treat people like people. And so I'm not like super, I'm not like a, huge feminist, but I have recognized, I feel like in my position, while, I run a small organization, I do have a responsibility to support other women and other females, and um, create a more diverse board that we have. That's incredibly important to me, not just gender, but race and religion and everything. So that's been something that I've been very purposeful about and very thoughtful about. I want people to be treated like people. So, yeah.
My mother says that if she could survive being a female in the insurance industry in the early, mid, and late 80s and early 90s, and there's really
Yeah.
almost nothing. And it's, she says it jokingly, obviously, but then again, I am blessed to work for my mother. She's the president of our company. She is the
I've not met
baddest,
your
and
mom yet, but I
she is
want to
the
meet her.
baddest insurance agent you'll ever meet in your life. And the best thing about her is that she never. You talk about people coming around. My father, he should rest in peace, and I have to sell people a little bit. By the time she's done talking to you, you're like, I want her to be my mother. I want her to be my agent. I want her to
Yep.
be my friend. And
Yep.
it's like, we're just like, how do you do that? She's like, do what? Like, but so she's everybody's nervous Jewish mother, which is great.
Yep.
I love. It's one of the funny things in our office is that when everyone used to be here, we would listen to her call late pays because there were some people that were just for her people, and when it got to the point where it was like really dangerous towards the end of cancellation, she she gets on the phone. She gets on the phone,
Yep.
and like at the end, she would like the way she would say it, like we want to make sure you're protected, sweetheart, and you're like, and by then you feel like that the people on the other end of the phone feel like that they wronged her by
Yes.
missing the
Hmm.
payment.
Yep.
Meanwhile, when I'm calling, I'm like, listen, if you don't pay,
Yeah.
your bank is gonna take. You're gonna be in for. You're gonna be in your loan. You're gonna be, and it's harsh but not harsh. It's motherly but not motherly. It's professional
Yeah.
but personal. It's all that, and I think that we need more of that in our industry, and especially in
Yep.
the service industry. There's so much value in that, and there's so much value in men and women in all
Yes.
races. And I think that one of the great things about one of the things that I've loved about being in the industry recently, and I think I told you this last time we were together, is I was at an event and I looked out and I saw a guy with a mohawk, a
Yep.
guy with a lady with a bunch of tattoos, a lady with purple hair. You know what I'm saying? And again,
Yes.
maybe not my speed,
Yeah.
but like this pale, stale, and male industry, I really feel, and we have a long way to go, and we're gonna get there.
We
But
do.
like we've made
Yeah.
so many strides in that, and I think we have people like you and people like my mom to thank for that. So really,
Oh,
thank you for that, and thank you for taking the leap, and thank you for taking, even though you didn't want to, thank you for taking the job because like it
oh, thanks.
it helped me so
Well,
personally.
I
We
love it. I
appreciate
have
it.
no regrets. I mean, it's in going through COVID was incredibly hard, as it was to anybody you talk to. I mean, I know it was for you too. I mean, gosh, you guys were right in the thick of it. But like,
4 little kids at home.
oh, I can't even
Yowza.
fathom. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
mine were in
but
high school.
yeah,
So
so yeah, they knew
anyway,
how to work Zoom. Lisa, but really, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for being here. Thank you for inspiring me. Your hustle's awesome. I love the fact that you came into our industry. I love the fact that you ride horses. I didn't know that. And just doing the right thing and getting to become the CEO of such a powerful organization is something super inspirational to me. So thank you for that.
Well, thanks. Yeah.
We close the podcast by asking our guests to leave us with their favorite all-time or timely inspirational quote and why or what it means to them. So the floor is yours.
Okay. So, and it's on my, I can show you, it's my little tattered. Oh, I don't want to rip it. Well, it's posted on it, but um, if you decide that you're going to do only the things you know that are going to work, you're going to leave a lot of opportunity on the table. And that's a Jeff Bezos saying that actually Steve Zogby, who was a leader of Big I for a long time, shared that with me a couple of years ago. And at the time we were thinking about how can we help our members in a more meaningful way with technology, not just like have a webinar or do a podcast. We were thinking this crazy idea to create a company that would guide members, and that was Catalyt. So I helped found Catalyt, and Steve shared that quote with me. And he's not like he's one of my really really good friends, and he's not someone that I would say would always like be a big risk taker with association stuff. But he's like, if you believe that much in it, like people believe in you and you believe that much in it, like you have to take opportunities. And as an association, I think sometimes we kind of get labeled, or people make assumptions that we're just conservative and we're not relevant. And that really couldn't be further from the truth, I don't think. So with my team and with myself, we experiment. I mean, we have limited resources, but we do what we can. But I just think of that quote all the time, and it sits in front of me because when I get a little nervous, to try something new or learn something new, you have to do it, right? So you have to keep stretching, and if we don't, nothing's ever going to advance forward. So that's one of my favorite quotes, and
Yeah,
it's
I
special
love
because
that.
of Steve sharing that with me too.
I
So
love that. And recently it reminds me of another quote I've been really into lately, which is imagine how big you would dream if you knew you wouldn't fail.
yeah,
And so many people sell their dreams short out of fear of failure. And yet,
yes,
if you hustle and if you keep hustling and if it inspires your hustle, then there's no such thing as failure. And you'll take those quote unquote risks because every single day you'll
that's
know
right.
that that's just another step in your rung to success.
Businesses don't fail, people fail. So
Love that.
yeah,
And if you keep hustling, you never fail.
that's right. Just keep moving.
That's it.
Yeah.
Lisa, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Aaron. What a pleasure. Thank you.
This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. As we end the episode, remember, do well by doing good. And of course, and always, keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. If you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.